Look, I think the economy's slowed, and I think that's what Chairman Powell is seeing. At the end of the day, the real question, and I think for you and I and for ordinary Americans, how much has it slowed? So if it's gone from a growth of 3% to 2%, then really what's happened is the economy's contracted by 33%, right? So you're still growing. Everybody's worried about a recession. I don't think that's happening at all. I do think you're going to have slower growth. And what that means is, at least for most people, you're going to feel that. It's not going to feel as if things were as good as they were last year. It's just going to be slower.
What does that mean for the markets if it's a downturn versus a recession? Or slower growth versus a downturn? How should investors be?
Well, if you're an investor, really what you want, if you're an equity investor, you want 3 to 4% growth, because that's actually great for equities. If you're a debt investor,
present.
Right, present. Then what you want is anywhere from 1 to 2% growth. So for what we're doing, it's great. For equities, I think you're going to find equities are going to have a harder time.
Now you're a debt investor, notable distressed investor. We've seen a couple situations come to the forefront. PG&E, are you playing that one?
Yeah, we are. We ended up participating in that. We ended up doing the DIP financing there. So we thought that was a pretty safe investment. We thought we were getting a bit overpaid for that. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and we'll probably end up doing a little bit more in that situation.
Hey, Mark, it's Melissa Lee back at headquarters, Mark.
Oh, sure.
I wanted to ask you about a position that you talked about in the fall, and that is buying into Tesla's debt. You said at the time that you weren't worried about the company's ability to pay that debt back. What are your thoughts now that you've seen what the company has gone through with the SEC and now with the SEC asking a court to find Elon Musk in contempt of the judgment?
Well, I think what you're going to find is that's going to be, the equity values may drop a little bit. I didn't see where Tesla is today, but at the end of the day, it's still got in excess of a $60 billion market cap, and it's only got about $7 billion of debt. So that would imply you've got a $67 billion enterprise value. Even if the equity drops, look, the equity could drop by sort of 80% and we're fine. So I don't think it's great for Elon Musk, but I think for the company, at least for where we are and where we're invested in the capital structure, we're fine. So, if the bonds go down a little bit more because people are nervous, that'd be a great opportunity for us to buy more of those bonds.
Where are you in the capital structure in terms of what sorts of debt you have and what maturities?
We're just at the top of the capital structure. So at least for us right now, those bonds are trading, they were trading around mid to high 80s. If because of the news today, they've dropped a little bit, you're still making somewhere around sort of a 9-10% current yield on that, which would be great. And then you've got the capital appreciation from 85 to par. So we think that's actually, in this environment, it's an extremely safe investment.
Mark, it's Kelly here, and I wanted to just quickly ask you, while we have you, about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, we'll keep this quick. We'll get back on subject, but you guys have done. Has this been your best investment ever? And why not sell with all the success you've had? Why not sell at these levels and walk away and say, you know what, couldn't have gotten much better than this one?
Well, it's been a great investment, so on that I agree. It can get better. I think right now we're the best team in the East. I think hopefully we have a real shot at getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then depending on who we play, I think we've got a pretty decent shot of winning the NBA, becoming an NBA champion. Look, part of the reason we did this is, it was a great investment, but it's also, at least for me, it's enormously fun. And there's nothing more satisfying than being able to win. And the last thing you would ever want to do is sell when everything's going great, at least in this. So I think this will be something that we end up holding on for a long time. I don't think it'll be something that we're going to be selling anytime soon.
Mark, Tyler Matheson here. I asked last week Adam Silver a question about the fact that in the NBA and in other sports leagues, there tend to be haves and have-nots. And you have a nice new stadium. You've got a succeeding team. You're not a huge market team, so it's not necessarily defined by market size. You can look at a team like the Knicks and say, well, they're a have because they're in a big market. They sell out, but they have not translated that into success on the court. My question is, what does the fact that there are haves and have-nots say, not just to the question of competitive balance on the court, but to economic viability of the franchises and the leagues? Is it a good thing that you have, or is it a livable thing that you have a real divide between a cluster of teams at the top that are very profitable, very successful, and a bunch that aren't?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great question, but time seems to solve all these issues, right? And if you take a look at it, when we bought the Bucks, they were the worst team in the NBA. I mean, they had the worst record, and at the time, we paid the most that had ever been paid for that franchise. So it's 5 years later, and look where we are. We're the best team in the NBA today. I would say a lot of that goes to sort of how you run your organization and sort of the people that you have. I think in the beginning, Jason ended up doing a great job in sort of taking the team to a certain level, and I think Bud now is taking the team to another level. I think our GM, my own opinion is our GM should be GM of the year. Our coach should be coach of the year. And that has nothing to do with it being sort of a big, one of the largest franchises or a smallest franchise. If you have the right people, you'll tend to end up doing a really good job. And I think what ends up being missed here is there's times when certain teams just aren't able to execute. And I would say that's not just on the floor, but it's at the GM level, it's at the coaching level. And there's other teams who have been able to do that. But I think time will solve those problems. And the draft will also solve some of those problems if you draft well. Look, when we drafted Giannis, he was the 15th pick. That means 14 other teams had the opportunity to draft him, and they didn't. Why was that? So our GM saw something that others didn't see at the time. So a lot of this is you've got to be able to execute. It's the same thing on the investment side. You've got to be able to make investments that are going to work out. So I think the NBA is fine, and I think everything's going to work itself out. The Knicks will get back to where they are, hopefully in the next draft and with some of the salary cap they have. But a lot of it is going to be, do they make the right choices? As somebody who lives in New York, I hope they do. As somebody who owns the Bucks, I hope they don't.